Hello Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans, and welcome back to the next chapter of the Lightning Library. This is the series where we take an in-depth look at every entry that has ever been released in the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. Today we are taking a look at the second Amazon exclusive figure set to come out in the summer of 2020. This is the S.P.D Omega Ranger and Uniforce cycle, which is also our first time we got any kind of vehicle in the Lightning Collection to go alongside a figure. We were also continuing to complete the S.P.D team, because at this point in time, we had already had S.P.D Shadow and S.P.D Red, and now we have our 6th Ranger, S.P.D Omega. So this figure cost $30 when it first came out, which is basically just $10 over the cost of a regular figure to accommodate for the bike. And let's go ahead and take a look at what we have going on with this figure before we look at the history. So we'll take a real quick look at the box here, so we can just kind of move Omega out of the way for a minute. The box is a very, very nice Lightning Collection box if you actually received one that wasn't kicked in by Amazon delivery people, because for some reason, these boxes were just always put into those classic bubble mailer bags that always got destroyed within transit, and it was really quite difficult to actually attain one that was not going to be completely destroyed. Luckily for me, mine actually was shipped to me in a box back in August when this first came out, and so I just got lucky there. This is actually a interesting kind of box here, so I didn't exactly discuss it in the Psycho Ranger Team Pack a few weeks back, but that was our first Lightning Collection set that had no plastic window for us to be able to see the inside of the figure. This one is the same. S.P.D Omega, you cannot see on the inside of this at all. This box is actually printed kind of sideways, so the tray is facing this way, so the figure is actually lying this way in the packaging, while the artwork is facing this way. So, ooh, I knocked him over there. Technically, the box is like this, if you want to actually have the tray like how it actually is, but they just printed it this way, but I think it looks nice anyway. Of course, you get Tom's box art to continue on all the sides as you typically would, and on the back there, you get a nice picture of the bike and showing that it does actually wheel. It's an actual wheel, it's not just like a fake wheel or anything like that, so that is good to see. And of course you see the figure and everything there. The only differences between the render on the back of the box and the handle falling off of the bike is the fact that the morpher there on the actual figure that we actually ended up getting is not painted at all, while on the box, I don't know how well it is to see it, it's actually painted silver there, or at least a dull gray of some sort, which just did not make it to this final figure at all. So before we take a look at the actual figure, let's go ahead and take a look at the history of it. On Friday, March 20th, Ranger Board user Otomo Watch found a listing on Amazon Italy for PRG Pet Sao Zeno Oscar Romeo, which when translated became Sao Oscar Romeo Pack. The identity of this figure was first unknown, other than the fact that it would be some sort of SPD figure, since the SAL code was used prior for S.P.D Shadow and S.P.D Red in Waves 1 and 4. Due to Wave 6 already having been leaked by this point, and it not being found with any other listings, it was assumed that this was going to be some sort of standalone release. At the time, Oscar was part of the old code system, where the first letter of the code corresponded to the actual name of the figure, meaning it had to be an S.P.D Ranger that started with O, which meant Omega or Orange could be the only options, and with Orange being so obscure, Omega was the accepted choice. Throughout the rest of March and April, the set would sit around on numerous international Amazon sites, still being codenamed, until Amazon France decoded it on May 7th as Omega Ranger SPD figure and Uniforce cycle. This not only confirmed the assumed identity, but proved that the pack part of the code was referring to this being a more deluxe figure that would come with a vehicle. These international Amazon sites had also listed the set for a July 1st release, and after it failed to make an appearance on the very first ever Power Rangers Fan First Friday on May 15th, it was unknown when the set would finally be revealed. By the time June rolled around, it was found alongside the Psycho Ranger Team Pack and Dino Thunder White on the German Edenspiel website. As that July release date drew closer and closer, the set was removed from its July 1st release, and was sort of just kind of missing in action. Until randomly, on Thursday, July 9th, when Hasbro randomly tweeted it out to reveal it. The set would be released as an Amazon exclusive in the US on August 1st, 2020 for $30, and it dropped what is to this day the most amount of promo pictures that any release has ever gotten for the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. And while this August 1st release held true for the US, the set was released on Thursday, July 16th from the same Malaysian store that got the Psycho Ranger team pack early, Justin Hunt's. And then finally, the set came out in early August from Amazon and caused a mini controversy where most of the boxes were destroyed in transit by Amazon shipping them in bubble envelopes and not boxes. This was not just an isolated incident, and it led to many to be quite upset. Alright, so here is the S.P.D Omega Ranger and the Uniforce cycle. So this is a pretty cool entry here. The fact that we got our first vehicle in this, smaller bike, which makes sense. You wouldn't necessarily do like a big car or something first. If you were doing like, Lightning Cruiser or Storm Blaster or something, this makes more sense to do something a little easier. It is still an interesting choice because he didn't actually use this cycle in S.P.D all that often. So it is kind of a relatively obscure choice for them to do, but it is still really cool that we got it. So you can obviously see he sits on the bike very nicely. He has two holding hands for both of his hands, a left and a right holding hand, which the other one is right here for his other holding hand, and they allow him to grip onto the handlebars just fine. You can go ahead and take him off of the bike though, so we can kind of take a better look at the figure and the bike itself. Now, the bike, which we'll look at first here, I have a couple little issues with it. First of all, you have to do a little bit of assembly out of the box. The feet rests and the actual handlebars are separate pieces, and I have never been able to get these to clip in. They always just rest in there, and every time I try to clip them in, it feels like I'm trying to break it. So they always just have to sit there with the power of friction, and I have to hope for the best. These stay in very nicely. I wouldn't even try taking them out because I would be afraid that they would snap off. But looking at the cycle, it's very nicely painted overall. See, there it goes, falling out again, falling onto the floor. It's like a nice, hard plastic. It doesn't feel like hollow or anything. My only real complaints is that, besides the handlebars never staying in, is the fact that this actually is supposed to be white in the show. This entire, kickstand, which you can fold all the way up if you want. But yeah, in the show it's supposed to be all white, and here they made it all black. I don't really know why, but you can roll that up, and then, actually we can try it on the upper level a little bit better to see it. It does wheel very nicely. There also is the wheel at the top here, which also rolls if you just really want to do this. I'm not even going to bother with the handles anymore. They can go wherever they want. I'm kind of tired of it. So, yeah, that is the Uniforce cycle. Nothing too crazy there, nothing too bad. So now let's take a look at Sam himself. So he comes with this really cool effect hand piece, which is very similar to the lightning shock hand that the Psycho Rangers all come with, although this is on his left hand and not his right hand, and it is a new mold regardless anyway, so it is not the same piece. In fact, the actual hand itself is cast in this translucent yellowish plastic, and the hand is actually painted white. So that's how they did it with this. You can kind of see that here on the inside of it. It looks, it works. I think it's perfectly acceptable. Now, if we take off his hand, we can kind of explore what we got going on here. So, like I said earlier, he does have a holding hand. In fact, all of his hand swaps are for his left hand. He does not come with any other versions of a right hand other than just the one he comes with in box, which has that vertical pivot instead of the horizontal pivot. So that is a thing there. However, his other hand swap is basically the exact same hand as the lightning hand, just without the lightning effect. So it's like right before he does the lightning effect, which is activated with his morpher, which his morpher can just come all the way off if you want to take it off. I don't know why you would want to, but you can. And it is horribly under-detailed. Sculpting wise it's nice, it's just not painted whatsoever. So that makes it kind of unfortunate, but we can go ahead and attach his kind of splayed open hand here. There we go. Now, what is cool about the morpher, though, is you can get him into a cool pose. Rotate it around there a little bit, where he can extend the little handle on it. It does move. So if you want to pretend he's turning the crank on it to activate the lightning attack, that is something you can absolutely do, which is, I think, a really cool feature that they didn't necessarily have to include, and I'm happy that they did. And for the most part, the figure is pretty good in terms of detail and everything. People do have their complaints, obviously, with the front and the back of it, and I would have to agree in some respect. The fact that the V is just way too thick. It's way too much more gold paint than it should have. And on the back, they did not continue the line down the entirety of the blue there, which is unfortunate, but it is the back of the figure, so you're not going to be seeing it too much, so I can kind of forgive it. They also just printed on his shoulder pad there and didn't bother to mold it on like they did with Shadow and Red, and later on with Blue and Green and things like that, so that's weird. Don't know why exactly they did that, but you know, it is what it is. I do think that that gold line though is a little rough, you know. But for the overall articulation, I'll put up a chart here. He can do everything that you would expect a Lightning Collection male figure body to do. Nothing too crazy there. And overall, I think it's very solid, especially since you're only paying $10 more for the bike. You're still getting a pretty good quality Lightning Collection figure. You know, as if you were just buying one, you're just getting an extra accessory. And then his final accessory is this tiny, and I mean tiny little thing. I don't know how it's ever going to be able to focus on it. You actually get the containment card. And like, it's cool. Don't get me wrong, but this thing is ridiculously tiny. There it is in his hand. Like, I can't even believe that they went through the effort of going through that. I'm so terrified I'm always going to lose that thing. I will never display him with it because I'm afraid of it falling off my shelf and just vanishing. So, cool accessory. But wow, they never advertised that accessory. We just found out he had it when we opened the box. So that's how that worked out. And yeah, like I said, idea cool, just really tiny, you know. But that's really all there is for S.P.D. Omega Ranger. So overall, I'm quite fond of this figure here. I just think it's neat that we finally gotten, an entire vehicle with a Lightning Collection figure. I think it was a pretty solid Amazon exclusive, and I was more than willing to pay the extra $10 for it. I think the accessories are cool. My only downside is I wish he would have had a little bit more accuracy with the paint. I wish the Morpher could have had something to it. And I do wish, even though I know it's only for like a second on screen, I think it would have been cool to have a Sam civilian head here, since, that technically did happen, but it was like on screen for like a second. So I understand why it's not here. And I can get over it, but it is cool. It would have been cool. But yep, that's all I have for this chapter of the Lightning Library. Make sure you guys join me here tomorrow for a special episode of the Lightning Library, which you will have to see for our April Fool's episode. And until then, I'll see you guys later. You can follow me on Twitter at the Living Ranger Key or Lightning Fig PR. Tokusatsu forever.